Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Healthy Little Moments podcast. I'm Dorota, and today we are diving into something that I know a lot of us struggle with. I know I do, and that's the fear of starting something new. So, this is a new podcast for me. I'm new, semi new to blogging. I've been at it for about a year, so you can imagine where this topic is coming from. And for you, it could be something different. It could be launching a new business, starting a new workout regimen, writing that book, or even just putting yourself out there in new ways. Maybe it's dating, maybe it's just meeting new people or a new job, maybe. But fear has a way of creeping in and stopping us before we even begin, before we even take that first step. And one of the biggest culprits is actually the perfectionist trap. And I have struggled with that my entire life. I jokingly say that I am a recovering perfectionist because that is just something that has just shown up in many different areas of my life. So I've been there waiting for the perfect time, making endless plans but never taking action, jotting out down all your ideas and it not leading anywhere, and just kind of feeling completely stuck. So today I want to break this down. I want to really get real about the fear holding us back, that root cause there, and most importantly, to give us talked through some actionable steps to really push through them and to make an action plan for ourselves to overcome that fear. So let's get into it. So first, I want to talk about why we fear something new, and this can be controversial, but fear is actually a good thing. And so, but let's talk about where it comes from because it's really not just, it's not us being lazy or unmotivated. It runs a lot deeper than that. So here's some reasons, right, that we might have strong fear. First is the fear of judgment. So we worry about what people think, right? What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if people don't take me seriously? What if this person, insert name, makes fun of me for this? And that was probably maybe one of my biggest concerns when I started blogging, right? Somebody might come across it, especially maybe some of those negative friends we've had in our life or family, like, oh, what if they think like, oh, what does she know, right? All those what ifs, right, that jump into our mind. The second is the fear of failure, that idea that, if we don't get it right from the start, then it's never going to work at all. Maybe we shouldn't even try at all. The third is it could be overwhelming. So sometimes the goal that we set for ourselves feels so big that we don't even know where to start. So we just don't start. And I have a friend, for example, she has wanted to go to Europe her entire life. She has like slight obsession with London. And she's told me this probably since the very first conversation that we met. But it's overwhelming because she's like, who would I go with? When would I go? Can I take time off work? Where would I stay? Is it safe? And I don't even have a passport. And so when you start going down this rabbit hole of making the plans of trying to get to that goal, it just all seems so overwhelming. You just don't take any action at all. And then the fourth, as I mentioned, what I struggled with the most is the perfectionist trap. And this one is so sneaky because we convince ourselves that we just need to plan more, we need to be better, we need to learn more, we need to wait for the right time before we even start anything, when in reality it's just fear in disguise. So, as I mentioned a little bit, this is something that I really struggled with, and I fell into this trap. I think the past 10 years, I've wanted to start a blog and to share some of my part of my health journey because I think it can help people. And I know it has actually because I've shared with it one-on-one with friends and coworkers, and I've had coworkers for years in my prior job when I was in finance tell me, how come you don't have a blog? How come you don't share this on a platform? Because it's so helpful. And so, in secret, I planned, I researched, I made my lists. I told myself I would start soon, but months went by and then more months and years, and I never started. And That's because I was scared. I wasn't good enough. I didn't have the right credentials. Maybe I don't know everything about every topic of health and wellness under the sun. And I just convinced myself, well, if I have a little more time and a little more time to prepare, to read, to learn, then I'll be ready. But in reality, I was just stalling. And so eventually I had to face the truth. There's really no perfect time. And sometimes we need a little nudge from somebody else that supports us, that are our biggest fan. And for me, I have those people in my circle and in my tribe. The biggest My biggest supporter is my husband, who and sometimes gives me daily pep talks when I need them. And I just had to start. I had to start messy, and it's not perfect. But once I did, everything changed. And yes, it was scary. And I made mistakes, and I sometimes have put out content, and then my stomach was turning, butterflies were turning like, is it good enough? Is it going to be helpful? Is it the way I want to present my brand? And there's so much there, but I learned, I grew, I made mistakes, I failed forward, and I just can't imagine where I'd be if I let fear win, because through my journey with blogging and now podcasting, I am making some incredible connections and friends, and I just can't imagine not having those people in my life right now. So if any of this resonates with you, if this sounds familiar and you're waiting for the perfect moment, this is your sign to stop waiting and just start taking some action. So on that note, let's talk about some solutions, because awareness is great and getting to the root cause of like, why are we doing this? Why do we feel fearful? But action is really what changes things. And this is what I'm so passionate about. And I'm going to outline a couple of different steps that you can take to really help you get over this fear and to start something. And I'm all about that and healthy little moments. It's all about those little tiny changes, those shifts that we can make. And one tiny shift can help get you on the right path. So the first one is to accept imperfection. So done is better than perfect. I need to like put that on my mirror and just give yourself permission to start where you are and with what you have. It doesn't have to be perfect. The first version of anything is supposed to be perfect. It's just that. It's just supposed to exist. I was watching a video about on YouTube about a famous YouTuber, and he said that his first 100 videos were absolutely terrible. He said, and that will happen if you launch, for example, a blog or a podcast. Really, the first X amount, you just have to accept they're not going to be your best. It's going to be getting your feet wet and learning and failing forward. So, number two is to break it down. If the goal feels overwhelming, break it into the tiniest possible steps. So, instead of launching a business, start with writing down one idea that you have for your business, or maybe some products that you want to sell. Just have a brainstorming session. Instead of getting fit, perhaps you can start with, I want to move my body for 10 minutes today. So, a couple of years ago, when I was struggling with some thyroid issues, and I actually had Epstein-Barr, which is a version of mono, my doctor told me that I have to start walking 30 minutes every single day. And I told her, and if you've ever had mono, you know you cannot get out of bed. So the idea of walking 30 minutes was just I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I said to her, honestly, I said, this is not something that I can commit to. I cannot walk 30 minutes every day. And she said, you know what? Break it down to just 3 10-minute segments. That's all. Can you walk for 10 minutes, just around the block, 10 minutes every morning after you have your morning cup of coffee, and then 10 minutes after lunch and 10 minutes after dinner? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And after doing that for a few weeks, I was able to work up to 30 minutes. And that was completely life altering for my body and my mental and physical health. And it was to start small. And just that's all you need to do. Just break it down and just do that very first step. Third is to set a start date and stick to it. So pick a day and commit to taking just one action step that day. So no more, okay, one day I'm going to do this. No, it's really happening and this is the day. So when I started blogging and I had a really hard time managing my schedule and my writing with my infant, I set a date every week. Every Saturday night, I am going to launch one blog. And all week, I would work in the evenings when my baby was sleeping, and I would write with the goal, knowing that my goalpost was Saturday night when I had to launch my blog. And that really helped me stick to a schedule. Yes, there were weeks when I missed it, definitely during teething season with my infant. But for the most part, I had this date that I could work towards. And the fourth is to shift your focus. Instead of worrying about what people will think, focus on the people who need what you have to offer. There's someone out there who would benefit from you starting in whatever goal that would be and whatever it may be. So, for example, I went through this Epstein-Barr journey when I had mono. And very recently, about 2 weeks ago, a girl reached out to me on TikTok because she saw one of my comments about Epstein-Barr and she said, I have Epstein-Barr and I'm lost and I don't know what to do and I don't know how to heal myself. And so we've actually been talking on the phone and we text every single day. And because I put myself out there and I shared my journey with Epstein-Barr, she reached out to me and now I'm giving her advice and, of course, not medical advice. I'm not a medical professional, but I shared some resources with her. I actually connected her with some doctors just to help her on her journey. So if I never started, I wouldn't have helped this girl. And she has sent me some of the sweetest text messages that I gave her hope when she was at her very lowest. And she actually, the day we talked on the phone and connected off of TikTok that very same day, she said she was at her lowest point, and that morning she was praying to God to give her a sign to not give up. And that just gives me goosebumps, and I just feel like we were both connected for a reason. And again, none of that would have happened if I just didn't put myself out there and I was vulnerable enough to start. And the fifth tip I want to share with you today is just to remind yourself that fear is normal. Fear means that you're stretching, you're growing, you're doing something new, you're getting out of your comfort zone. And it's not a stop sign, even though, we're scientifically coded in our DNA to respond to fear in a certain way. But you have to understand where that fear is coming from. And it's in starting something new, it's just a signal that you're on the edge of something meaningful. So I want to wrap it up here, and I just want to leave you with this. Starting is truly the hardest part, but once you take that first step, that fear that embodies your entire being, it feels like it slowly loses its grip. And so you remember that you don't need to be perfect, you just need to begin. So going back to my example with my friend who wants to travel, maybe today she can just print a passport application, and that's all you have to do today. If you just focus on one little thing to nudge yourself into the right path, it's going to pay off tenfold in a year from now. So think of something you've been putting off. What is one small step that you can take today? And I just encourage you to do it because your future self will thank you. And so if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Maybe send me a message, share this episode with a friend, or tag me on social media. I would really love connecting with you all. That's my favorite part of social media, is the connections and the community that we're building. So I thank you for being here, for listening, and for choosing yourself, choosing to grow.